This is Surrey Hills Radio.
Yeah, it's Surrey Hills Radio, your community radio station based right here in the heart of Leatherhead. You're listening to me, Simon Kay, and I'm really pleased to say this afternoon we've got a guest on a Zoom meeting. It's my very first interview on Zoom. Look at the smile on that face. Let's welcome Jack Pisa to the show this afternoon. Hi, Jack. How are you?
Hello, mate. Good, thanks. Very good.
Excellent stuff. Now, the reason why you're on this Zoom meeting with me today, is it a meeting or a call? I'm not so sure. We'll call it a Zoom meeting, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, meeting.
Excellent. Well, the
it's
reason
a bit less formal.
It is a bit less formal. You're correct. Yeah, it's a chat at the end of the day. That's all it really is. So Jack's asked me to, if I wouldn't mind being questioned and interviewed about some of the stuff that I do down at Leatherhead Football Club. And he wants to talk about this year and really the effects of COVID and the disruption it's caused to the club, like it has to every club. But before we do that, let's ask Jack a couple of questions, shall we? Let's get to find out a little bit more about the man at the other end of the screen. So, Jack, tell us a little bit about yourself. Are you a local lad?
Yeah, that's right. I've actually played for Leatherhead few years ago. I was about sort of 10, 11. Played for the youth team. Went to school in Leatherhead, went to St Andrews. I'm now up north at Leeds Uni, studying journalism. So that's part of the project to test my journalistic skills. And yeah, I just wanted to find out a bit about the local club and how it's been affected during the coronavirus. So yeah.
So you mentioned that you've played for Leatherhead Youth. Now, what's really nice this season, that Leatherhead Youth and Leatherhead First Team, who previously weren't really connected, there's now a synergy between the two clubs. So what we've created at Leatherhead Football Club is an under-23s that's based at Leatherhead Youth and train at Leatherhead Youth. And we've created the 18s at Leatherhead Youth are now also part of Leatherhead Football Club, whereas previously they weren't. So what we're trying to create there is a pathway from the youth football team into the first team at Leatherhead Football Club. So how long ago did you play, you say?
Oh, it must have been about 8 years, 7, 8 years ago. I was very young. I only played for a couple of seasons down at River Lane.
And that was probably before they developed it all into that fantastic setup they've got now.
Yeah, I think when I was there, they were in the process of building the new clubhouse. So it had just opened. But I mean, I drive past there now, and it looks amazing. So
yeah, do you know what? As you know, with what I do at Leatherhead, and my son, who you know as well, because he went to St Andrews. In fact, all three of my children went to St Andrews. A great school, by the way. I'll give them a little plug because they are a fantastic school. Football, in terms of grassroots, you won't get much better than Leatherhead Youth. The setup down there is fantastic, and for any youngsters in the local area that want to get into football, what a fantastic club to join and be part of. And of course, now the benefit with that is that if you want to progress within football, you can hopefully find that pathway into the first team at Leatherhead. Yeah,
I mean, it sounds brilliant. The facilities look superb, and it's just really good to see that you can sort of progress from just sort of having a kick about as a kid and enjoying it into actually playing serious football for a good club as well. So that's good to see.
Yeah, and it was really nice as well. I know we're talking about the football. We'll get onto the stuff that you want to talk to me about as well in a second. But, you know, the under-18s recently just played Gillingham in the FA Cup. And they lost, but you know what a great experience for them. Fantastic playing away at Gillingham Football Club, which of course is it's not Premier League club, sorry, it's a professional football club, and a great experience, fantastic experience for them. That's borne out of the fact that, you know, at Leatherhead, when you've got those fantastic facilities from the youth side, that's going to attract better footballers, better players, and you're going to get better results. Hence why they progressed quite well in the FA Cup.
Yeah, I mean, just to say that you've played in the FA Cup is a pretty cool thing to do. So to go to Gillingham, and that's just credit to how the club's progressed over the last few years. Because I remember when I played there, the amount of times that the pitches were waterlogged because of the river, and just it's good to see that the club's sort of come on in the last few years.
Yeah, fantastic setup, and fantastic youth football club. That's all we can really say about it. Brilliant stuff. So you're currently at uni at Leeds?
That is right, yeah. Up in the north.
Okay, how's that going?
Yeah, not bad. I'm in my final year. I mean, obviously things are a bit different now. Not being able to actually go into uni, it's just a bit sort of it's a bit weird, really, because I mean we don't really have any any contact time, so I'm just sort of sitting at home, just watching a load of football on the telly. But yeah, it's going okay, and
Well, there's
hopefully that
worse
we
things you could watch on the telly.
yeah,
I can
yeah,
tell you.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure my wife would agree. She's getting a bit fed up, but she said there's more football on the telly. It's every night. I mean, some days on Sundays, I mean, if you're lucky, you can get 4 games on a Sunday,
I mean, yeah,
which I think is brilliant.
yeah, you've got one at midday, one at 2, one at 4, and then one
Mm.
in the evening as well. So it's perfect.
So, how are you doing your coursework and your classwork? Is that just not happening? Are you doing it via Zoom meetings?
Yeah, so the lectures that we have are via meetings. It's not Zoom, but it's another sort of online
Mm.
website, and then so we all join that, and the lecturer sort of does their talk, and then because I'm doing journalism, it's quite a practical course, which obviously we can't do because of social distancing. So they've given us this mobile journalism sort of equipment type thing. So they've given us a portable little tripod, a sort of camera stick, and portable microphones to try and help us to sort of go out and do what we can on our
So,
own.
have they asked you to do anything with any of the local football teams around Leeds? I mean, look, let's just say what you could do is you could go down to Ellen Road and get a pair of binoculars.
Yeah, see
Been done
if I can
before.
spot Bielsa. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been done before. So, are you doing anything locally? You know, with in terms of your coursework, are you visiting any local football teams or talking to any local football teams?
Yeah, it was last year I went down to Guiseley, a non-league side, because they had a good run in the FA Cup.
Mm.
And I sort of spoke to them about their setup there, which was really good. It's good to get involved in sort of the non-league setup, and it's good to see sort of a proper football, as we'd call it.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It's proper football, and you know, I sort of see both sides of the fence. For my sins, I'm a Nottingham Forest supporter. Yeah, and hold that against me. So I've had plenty of years of winning nothing and with not a lot to smile about. But when you get involved with non-league, you meet all these different characters, and they're fantastic. And you see how the club works, and you see the mechanics behind it. And you see some really, really good people that devote lots of time for free for the love of the club. So yeah, it's good to get involved in non-league. It's fantastic, and I enjoy it.
That's
So
good.
you want to ask me some questions about what's going on in the world and football? And I'll try my best to answer. I might not have all the answers, but I'll certainly give it a go and see what I can help you with.
That's all right. Well, speaking of your involvement in non-league, the first question is: can you tell me a bit about how you got involved with Leatherhead FC, and what is your role at the club?
Okay, yeah, great question. So, I'll try and abbreviate this answer. So, funny enough, a little bit like you, my son used to play for Leatherhead Youth. And part of that package as a parent, when you pay for him to play, he got a free season ticket to go and watch Leatherhead's first team. That was part of the deal when he signed for Leatherhead Youth. So we started to pop down and we started to watch a few games. And at that time, as you can see in the background, I also do a voluntary role as a radio presenter at Surrey Hills Radio, which is based in Leatherhead. And there was a couple of guys down there that got to know that I did that. And before I knew it, I was very quickly being asked, would I mind doing some work on the tannoy and perhaps, making it a little bit different, trying to build an atmosphere in the ground. So yeah, for probably the last, I think, 4 seasons now, I'm the guy that's down there every home game. The one that makes all the noise. And if you live local to Leatherhead and you can hear my voice, I do apologise. We're going to try and sort those speakers out. They do tend to travel quite far, some of those speakers, unfortunately. But yeah, I'll be playing the music. So I do sort of all the pre-match music. I do all the stadium announcing. I announce the players as they come on, the teams as they come on at kick-off. Announce all the substitutes as well, and half-time, and play music at half-time and the full-time. Got a few goal songs as well. When they do score, Leatherhead, we press the button and we get that go. Really just sort of to build a real atmosphere in the ground. And yeah, it seems to have worked, which is fantastic. So that's what I do currently. I'm also helping them with their media side at the moment. We're in between media managers and I'm just sort of plugging and filling in that role. So at the moment, and I say at the moment because it's a role I'm just doing temporarily for them to help them until we find someone. I'm looking after all the media side, so I'm controlling the website, Facebook page for them, Twitter and Instagram, And it's not easy when you're trying to do the match day stuff as well and look at who's coming on and going off and looking at who's scored and you're trying to tweak this, that and the other. So, yeah, I'm quite busy match days, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you sound like a busy man. Fair play to you.
Thank you.
So you say you've been doing that for the last 4 seasons on the tannoy. What's it been like in the last, nearly year now? Have you noticed a difference during the sort of coronavirus pandemic? I mean, obviously you would have noticed a difference, but
yeah,
what's sort of been the impact on the club that you've noticed in particular over the last few months?
Well, I think you've got 2 different types of impacts. You've got an impact on the pitch and you've got an impact off the pitch. And the one thing that we should say is that the pandemic has really hit everybody, not just football clubs, but any business across the UK. It's hit everyone tremendously hard. It's something that's brand new for everybody. So we don't really know a lot about it, and it's constantly evolving and constantly changing. And you have to adapt as new information comes out. So if we look at the back end of last year, for example, we talk about on the pitch, Leatherhead for the last couple of seasons notoriously had a bit of a slow start to the season. And then last season, we were still trialling players 6-7 games into the season, which isn't ideal. So we got off to a little bit of a slow start. Then, around about 10 games in, we started to hit a little bit of momentum and we were doing quite well. In fact, we actually, when the FA decided that all football was going to stop because of COVID, we were in 9th position on 52 points and we were pushing for the playoffs. So that impacted us there because we had a real great momentum going on at that point, and all of a sudden it was a little bit like the carpet had been pulled from under our feet. The other thing that affected us is Leatherhead fans are crying out for a little bit of success, and they've not had much over many years. So we were in the semi-final of the Surrey Senior Cup as well. So we were looking forward to that and hopefully getting to a final and perhaps winning some silverware. And unfortunately, again, because of COVID, that ground to a very abrupt halt, unfortunately. So that was last season. Just came to a pretty rubbish end for everybody, wasn't it? I mean, everything stopped and very suddenly, and then the season was null and void as a result. Yeah,
what was the sort of reaction from the players? Were they obviously gutted to have the season sort of taken away from them when it was in such a promising position? Did you speak to them at all about their feelings on it?
Yeah, so like any footballers, whether so when you get to semi-professional level, all they want to do is play football, and they love playing football. And when you're suddenly telling someone, "I'm sorry, but you can't come in, you can't train, you can't play," it's really tough for them because for some of them, it's their release. I mean, these guys work Monday to Friday. They're not professional, so they have a day job and they're being impacted in their day job because of COVID. And now it's impacting on their hobby. And yes, there are players at Leatherhead that get paid. They don't get paid a king's ransom. So it was impacting them sort of at work and also their additional income when it comes to playing football at Leatherhead. And it's more about the enjoyment of playing football. Of course, that suddenly came to an abrupt end. And, I think of my son as well. He plays football and it hit him quite hard as a 16-year-old goalkeeper. He suddenly found himself very, very active, very, very busy. And it ground to an abrupt halt in March, wasn't it? Yeah, March.
Yeah, I guess it's the same for a lot of the fans of the club as well, who would have been working all week and then looked forward to coming down on a Saturday to watch the team play, and obviously to have that taken away from them, it must have been hard for everyone involved.
Yeah, I mean, I often describe the football club as a bit of a social club, and it is. I went down there as a spectator 4 years ago, and now I'm down there as someone that's part of the setup there and one of the volunteers at Leatherhead. And it's really quite nice because I can be at the ground and people will come up and talk to me and just have a chat, see how things are going, and it is like a social club on a Saturday afternoon, which is really lovely.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully with the recent news of the vaccine, it won't be too long before we're all back. I mean, my dad, I can't go because I'm up at uni, but my dad goes down to watch Leatherhead most weekends, and as someone who hasn't really he doesn't really have a football team in a professional football team, but he just goes down to Leatherhead and he loves the non-league.
Yeah,
side
and,
of
and
things.
he's probably, it's not just the football, it'll be the experience. He'll meet his mates. I don't know if he drinks, but he might have a couple of beers, you know. It is the social aspect. And all of a sudden, when that was pulled away from everybody, I think there's a few people, spectators as well, that found it very difficult with all of a sudden nothing to do on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, and sort of going back to the player side of things, when football did get back underway
Mm.
a couple of months ago, was it hard to match performance levels from before?
Yeah, so we got them in for pre-season. Apologies, you might hear some background noise. It's raining now in my conservatory. So, yeah, we started pre-season, and I was actually at the first pre-season training session at Fetcham Grove, and you could see those players that had kept themselves fit during the first lockdown, and those that hadn't. And the ones that didn't keep themselves fit, they struggled. They struggled on that first training session. Um, yeah, and there were quite a few of them blowing and puffing quite hard at the end of it, and it took them a few weeks. So in terms of how did it affect them, I think it's all about the individual, and certainly I know my son, for example, he's at Aldershot Town, so he was doing a lot of Zoom videos. He was doing a once a week Zoom video with Aldershot Town, and he was also doing a once a week video session with Wimbledon Football Club because he was on trial there at the time, and that helped him keep fit. Along with that, he was going out and he was doing 5 and 10K runs. And although we did have some of our players at Leatherhead that were doing that, it's clear there were some that weren't. And I think they paid the price come pre-season, certainly on that first training session.
Yeah, I can imagine that was a rough one. Did the players, did they keep in contact with each other then over the first lockdown? Were they still sort of keeping in touch? Are they good mates? Is it a close
Yeah.
knit team?
Yeah, absolutely. They're very, very close bunch of lads. And from what I gather, I'm not privy to it, but I believe there's a WhatsApp group and they're all talking on that. So, yeah, they're a very, very good, very close-knit team.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. On speaking about off the pitch, do you know how much the financial is hit the club in a financial way? Is the club?
Yeah. So
Um,
we're no different to any other football team, by the way. And although I can't give you any figures purely because I don't have figures, I don't get involved in that side of things. But it will have affected us tremendously. And there's a couple of reasons. So if we look at when we first came back to football, and most football clubs, they need their revenue from people coming through the gate. That's first and foremost. They have to put bums on seats. That's what pays the majority of the bills. Leatherhead's a little bit more different because it's got another couple of revenue or income revenues. So it's got a function room, which it was letting out to people for parties and functions and hiring people out. So they were losing, all of a sudden they lost revenue from that because there was no one paying for the hall. Secondly, there was no one having parties. They weren't spending any money behind the bars. So they lost the revenue from the bar as well. They also hire the hall out during the week to a couple of organisations. One of them is a slimming organisation. Again, that stopped, so they lost that revenue as well. And I don't know if you've been to Leather, but it's quite a big car park out the front. And that is during the week, they rent that car park out to local businesses for their staff to be able to park and walk to their workplace. And again, because of the way the world suddenly changed and a lot of people started working from home, Jack, what that meant is there wasn't as many cars coming into park. So they lost revenue from the car park. They lost revenue from the bar not being open. They lost revenue from match day bar as well, because with COVID, we were given a set of instructions to make sure that we kept everybody safe. And I have to say the club have been brilliant at that. What it meant is that basically you could grab a beer, but you had to go back out on the terraces. And there was no hanging around after the match. The bar wasn't open after the match. In fact, it shut at full time. You couldn't get a drink. You couldn't congregate because of social distancing. And there was revenue lost there as well. So we lost revenue from after the match, where people tend to go in the bar and have a few beers with their mates and wait for the players to come out. And then the players would generally get involved with the fans and have a chat and sit down. That all went out the window as well. So, yeah, quite a lot of revenue has been lost.
Yeah, was there ever? I'm not sure if you're allowed to answer this, but was there ever a point where the club sort of feared for the future, or do you think obviously it was a struggle, but
Yeah.
was there always the belief that the club would keep their head above water?
I think Leatherhead are no different to any other non-league club, unless you've got someone behind you that's got so much money they don't even know how much money they've got in the bank. And Leatherhead haven't got anyone that's behind them that's a millionaire and just throws money at the club. They have to generate their own income to make sure they can pay all the bills. And without going into the financial aspect, because as I say, I don't really get involved in all that, but I think it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out that. Yeah, they're probably looking every week and trying to balance the books every week and making sure that they can pay players, making sure that they can pay suppliers, and they're trying to project what's coming through the gate. What has been quite positive, in a strange roundabout way, although they've lost revenue from the car parks and the bars, etc., the gate numbers have actually been up. So, I think the first 4 home games we had over 400, and I think one of those games we hit over 500. So certainly in terms of numbers coming through the gates, we've seen an increase, which is really, really encouraging. Now, from any club's perspective, when you get an increase in people coming through the gate, you really want to capitalise on that and keep that momentum going. And unfortunately for Leatherhead, at a time when they're getting more people through the door and the atmosphere is getting better, the carpet gets pulled again from under their feet this time round. So back to square one.
Yeah, I was going to mention that to you actually, about how it must have been a real boost for the period where fans were allowed back into non-league games to have the increase in attendances, obviously for not just for the financial side, but as you say, for the just to boost the popularity of the club and for a bit more of a feel-good factor. And yeah, now that's gone again. Do you think it will be hard to get those numbers again after this time round? Or
I think what we saw, fans coming in that probably one of two things. We saw fans that perhaps would normally have gone to another club but couldn't. And that club may have been at a higher level. So it may have been someone like a Woking or a Dorking Wanderers, or it could have been a professional club that all of a sudden they can't go and see. So they want to pop down to their local semi-professional club. So I think we saw that. I think we saw those type of fans come in. But we also saw, there was a guy down the other week who was talking to me. And funny enough, he was only talking to me. He lost his camera. And someone handed it in and I announced it. And he came up to me and he said, "Oh, you've got a camera?" I said, "Yeah, I have." And he described what it looked like to me and was talking. And he was a ground hopper. And he said, "It's my first time I've been here. I think it's fantastic. The crowd are fantastic. The atmosphere is great." He said, "I've had a really brilliant day." So I think you're seeing different people now coming to football because I think everyone's just getting a bit fed up, Jack, aren't they?
Yeah,
looking at 4 walls.
Yeah, that's certainly the case for me. I'm a season ticket holder at Brentford, which is it's last season was a bit depressing after losing the playoff final, but yeah, I'm just missing the feeling of the match day really. Just really want to get back to it in any way I can.
Yeah, and I think those people that aren't involved in football and don't go and watch football don't quite get it. And I always tell people it's not just about the bit between 3 o'clock and 4:45. It's the whole experience. So as a Brentford fan, and as I said earlier, I was a Forest. I still am a Forest fan, and I used to take my lad up to Nottingham, and we'd travel away. We've been to Brentford, and I've sat in the corner of that old away end at Brentford and couldn't see half the pitch because I was right in the far corner. And it's the experience, and I've got great memories of him when he was 6 or 7. And, we'd go to a ground. I think Watford was the first away ground I took him to. And it was the whole match day experience. So it's getting in the car, it's travelling to where you're going, it's getting there before kickoff, it's taking in the atmosphere, it's having a bite to eat. It's going on the terraces, it's watching the football, it's mixing with the crowds, and then it's the bit on the way home as well. So it's a whole day out, isn't it? A game of football is a whole day out for everybody. So you're not just missing an hour and a half in your Saturday, you're missing most of your Saturday.
Yeah, it's like you say, it's not even really the 3 till 4:30. It's I even miss sort of getting the train up to the stadium, and just sort of the smell of the pies and just the chatter and the buzz that you feel when you're in a ground. And it's really quite sad. And on that topic, has there been much fan fan reaction on social media? Have you seen much of what the fans have been saying down at Leatherhead?
With regards to COVID?
Just yeah, regards to not being able to go to games. Has there been much talk on?
No, so I think they all understand. I think they're getting, like a lot of us, very frustrated with what's happening. But I think we also must understand to a degree that we've been a little bit fortunate because we have been able to go and watch games. And,
Yeah.
We're a step 3 club and you've only got to go to step 2, which is the next level up. So teams like Dorking Wanderers, for example, they can't have fans. They're not allowed fans, which seems really ridiculous. And you have to feel sorry for them because, look, Dorking have got money. They've got more money than Leatherhead have. You can tell that by their playing budget and the players they've got. But they still need to have money coming through the gates. They can't. They like any club can't survive unless they've got revenue coming in. So we've been quite lucky at Leatherhead that we have actually managed to get to some games. I'm just looking at some stats. We've played 9 games so far this season, and it's really strange because we've won 3, drawn 3, and lost 3. But so that's 9 games we've got to see at least, and that's the positive spin on it. But yeah, the fans have been great. I've seen no moans and groans, certainly about football ending. They understand it's not our decision; it's a decision from above us, and we just have to adhere to it.
Yeah, I mean, when you say that about Dorking, you probably count yourself lucky that you are that step below because, as you say, at least you've been able to get into 9 games and sort of have that feeling back again of a little bit of normality, which is good. Have you noticed a change in the club over the last few months, or do you think it's still the same Leatherhead from this time last year?
I think the club is the same. I think the experience has changed. And, I liken it to, we've mentioned earlier, there's a lot of football on the telly at the moment. I don't know about you, Jack, but it's not the same without the noise of the fans. And the artificial noise that they try and use on these matches on Sky and so on, they're not a bad substitute, but sometimes they're 2 or 3 seconds behind the shot on goal, and it's just quite laughable. But it isn't the same, and I've not enjoyed watching football on the telly, for example, as much as I would normally without the fans and the interaction, the crowd noise, and and everything that comes with that from having a live crowd. So yeah, the club itself. No, I don't think the club has changed. It is still Leatherhead Football Club. It still operates the same way it was. It's just doing things in accordance to guidance that is being given by the FA. Yeah,
it's funny that you mentioned that because you watch a game on the telly and someone has a shot that goes sort of miles wide, and the stadium noise, they put the noise as if it was a really close effort, and you think that's just
it's funny, isn't it? I've got quite sit there and think, that was 2 seconds too late, or it was the wrong noise for what happened, But it's quite laughable. But at least they're trying, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, at least they're giving it a go. And you mentioned the FA guidance. Have the FA been good? Have the FA been good with their guidance, or?
Yeah, so the one thing we've got to understand is that the guidance that's being given to any organisations at the moment are being given from a higher plane than those organisations. So, they're following government guidelines and then they're sitting down and discussing what it is they're going to do. And then they issue statements and updates on COVID to the clubs, and then we have to adhere to those policies. So, I mean, at Leatherhead, for example, when it comes to COVID itself, I mean, what we've actually done there, and it was quite good. So we've done a couple of things. So we've done online ticketing. So they restricted us to 1/3 of our capacity. And this is the crazy thing. So when we compare against clubs like Dorking, so we're allowed 600 people maximum at our ground, or we were until this recent shutdown. Dorking weren't allowed any. Dorking could quite have easily have held 600 people around their ground like us and done it safely. But they weren't allowed any. So we were getting 600 in. So the way we had to manage that so that we knew we had 600 people coming through the door and no more was via an online ticketing service. So we encouraged our fans to buy online so we could monitor how many fans had purchased. And that way we made sure that we weren't over that 600 capacity. So that was really good. We also employed a security company, if you like, stewards, to manage it on site for us. And they were in charge of our COVID policies and making sure that people were socially distancing. They were encouraging everybody to download the Track and Trace app at the gates. If they weren't downloading the Track and Trace app, they were taking their details, their phone number and their name, obviously for track and trace, and they were just keeping an eye on some of the facilities, making sure that people weren't piling into the bar without wearing a mask, and that there was only a few people at a time in the bar. They were collecting their drinks and then were going out the other exit, so they weren't congregating in the bar. And even down to things like the toilet facilities, they were making sure that the toilet facilities only had a couple of people in there at a time, and they were holding queues back to go in so that we weren't mixing people too close together.
Oh yeah, that's good to hear. What was the distancing well observed then between the fans? There wasn't really any trouble with that at all.
No, I think, look, it is difficult when you're talking about people that are passionate and people that know each other, and, you have your own bubble, and that's fine. You can stick within your bubble. And then you see Fred that you haven't seen for a few weeks, who's suddenly there and he wants to come and have a chat with you. And it's always difficult. But I always thought and saw that actually everyone at Leatherhead was really sensible about it. And there was a guy that came up to me, Gary, who's one of the regulars down there, and he came up the other week with his cup of tea in his hand and had a chat with me, and he had a mask on, so he knew he was getting within the 2 meters of me, but he took the precaution of wearing a face covering, and it was perfectly safe. So yeah, I think everyone's done really, really well. It's difficult, isn't it, because that you can go anywhere out on the road and you'll see people that are just ignoring it, which is a real shame. But I have to say, the Leatherhead fans have been pretty good. That's
good. And so there was never any confusion then from the FA as to what wasn't allowed. They were pretty clear with their rules.
Yeah. So that in terms of what the FA was saying we could or couldn't do, that would have been filtered down to the hierarchy in the club. And then what we did is we looked at that and we created our own risk assessment that is on our website now. Like a lot of risk assessments, if you've ever seen a risk assessment, Jack, sometimes they're long, sometimes they're very long. So what we did is actually we took the key like pinpoints from that risk assessment that would affect the crowd, and I did on one of the social sites. I just put a reminder for the game as to what we would expect them to do, and that was maintain social distancing, wear a mask if possible. There's no congregating in the bar. Grab your beer. Go back out onto the terraces. There's a one-way system in the bar and another way out. Don't walk back on yourself. And it was a reminder about downloading the Track and Trace app as well was on there. So we just took the key bullet points, and rather than give information overload, because if I gave you the risk assessment for Leatherhead Football Club as you arrived at the gate at 20 to 3 on a Saturday afternoon and said, read that before you come in, you're going to look at me like I'm mad, throw it in the bin, and then just walking anyway. So we picked the bullet points and we put those out there for every fan to see and observe, and I'm pleased to say they did.
Oh no, that's good to hear. Yeah, that sounds like it was pretty professionally done. So a credit to you guys. Just really the last sort of question I had for you was where do you see the future of the club? Do you see the future? Do you think the future's bright, or do you think that it might be a bit of a struggle in the coming months?
Well, I think in terms of, I suppose we've got to look at it 2 ways. So no one knows what's going to happen with these current lockdown restrictions, whether they're going to be extended, whether they are going to end on the 2nd of December, and they may well end on the 2nd of December. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to allow football back in its original format. So it all hinges on that. So I suppose let's look at it 2 ways. Is the future bright for Leatherhead Football Club? Well, I think we've got the makings of a very good team. I think we've got an excellent management duo in Martin McCarthy, the coach / assistant manager, and Nicky Ball, the first team manager. I think as a pairing, they're superb. And what I like about them is they nurture young talent. So they know that we haven't got big budgets with, like the likes of Dorking Wanderers. We can't go and pay ridiculous money for players every week. So we have to pick those that are perhaps learning their trade and make them better at what they do. And Nicky and Macca do a brilliant job at that. So from that perspective, I think the future is bright. We've got a really good management pairing. The club is doing well. I mean, I'm just looking now, actually, we're currently 13th in the league, which I didn't check against. I couldn't find the stats on last season's league, but I think that's probably better than where we were this time last year by, I would say, a few places. And we're in a good place. In terms of what happens with COVID, I mean, who knows? I mean, we are a club that relies on income. you know, our revenue stream has been reduced heavily in this current period because we've got no football going on. We've got no one coming through the gates, and the parking side of things has heavily been reduced. There's zero income coming into the bar. No one's hiring out the hall because you can't have a party anymore. And none of the organisations are hiring out the hall because, you know, you can't have those types of organisations aren't deemed as essential. So, yeah, who knows? I mean, like any football club, I think Leatherhead would struggle if this continued for another 6 months, shall we say. But I don't know. What I don't know is what financial support the club are getting, if any at all, from the FA.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, it certainly sounds like the club's in a good place on the pitch. We just got to hope, I guess, that things off the pitch improve in the next couple of months. And I think no one really knows what's going to happen, but I think we just have to keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's hope so, because we all want a bit of normality back, don't we?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, that's about it on my end. Thanks very much for answering my questions. It's been very interesting to hear.
Okay.
Was there anything else you wanted to ask me?
A quick question. So we're going to put this out on Surrey Hills Radio with your permission, and we've already spoken about that. You're happy for us to do that. So what's going to happen with this Zoom meeting now at your end? What are you going to do with it?
So this is going to go into a project that I'm doing, which is sort of analysing or having a look at the impact of the coronavirus on football at non-league and grassroots level. So I'm gonna. This is the first one I've done. So thanks very much for that. So basically, I'm going to try and speak to a couple of other clubs and just sort of see if there's any comparisons that I can make if another club has sort of struggled particularly, or if another club has, like you say, got a lot of backing, so they haven't had to worry in the last few months. So yeah, it's what it is a TV project. So I'm going to be narrating it, and then sort of slot in the interview with you and talk about the impact that the coronavirus has had on the club. So it should be good, hopefully, and I'll be sure to send you a copy when it's done.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, keep us informed, won't you? Because, I mean, we'd like to know a little bit more, because you are a local lad and you went to the local school in St Andrews. And you talk about like COVID and how it's affected things. So this here, right, is a good example of how it's affected things. So I've not visited the radio station now since March. So here we are in November. I do my show every Friday from home, which is great. But it causes me issues because I've got a dog that constantly barks at me that wants my attention. And unfortunately, we've picked a day to do this. And you can probably hear it, but it's hammering down here in Cobham where I live. And it's all hitting the conservatory roof. So it's a little bit noisy in the background. I do apologise. But yeah, so in terms of what you're doing, I think it's fantastic. And I will wish you every success with it. And please keep us informed with what you're doing and let us know what the outcome is. And yeah, let us know, because what we're going to do is we're going to put this on the radio in one of our feature shows, and we'll make sure that you're copied in with a link to that as well. And we'd love an update, because
of course.
You know, what are you hoping for here? Distinctions, 8 stars? What you
well, I'm hoping for a good grade, but I'm just hoping to get a good piece together and find out about football, really, because I'm football mad. So anything football related I want to find out about, and then a good grade would be a bonus. But fingers crossed. And hopefully I'll see you down at Fetcham Grove in the not too distant future. Let's hope
so. Yeah, let's hope so. Look, I'm down there most games. Make sure you come and say hi. I said hi to your dad last week. We actually haven't met in person as yet, but I'm sure we will do soon. And listen, the very best of luck with what you're doing at uni. And please, keep us informed with what's going on.
Thanks very much. I will do. All the best to you as well.
Take care of yourself, Jack. Good
Cheers.
to speak.
Thanks very much, and you. Bye.